Sean Diddy Combs, the name once tied to chart-topping hits, glitzy parties, and billion-dollar business moves, is now making headlines for something very different. The hip-hop mogul could soon be facing a prison sentence that stretches well over a decade. Prosecutors are demanding more than 11 years behind bars for Combs, along with a hefty fine, while his defense team is scrambling to convince the judge he deserves barely over a year. So how did one of music's biggest power players end up at the center of this scandal? And what's really at stake as sentencing day approaches? Let's break it down. Federal prosecutors have laid their cards on the table. They want Sean Combs locked up for at least 135 months. That's just over 11 years. And they're pushing for a $500,000 fine on top of it. In their pre-sentencing submission, they didn't hold back. They wrote, "His crimes of conviction are serious and have warranted sentences over 10 years in multiple cases for defendants who, like Sean Combs, engaged in violence and put others in fear." The prosecution's message is crystal clear. This isn't just about arranging sex workers, it's about power, intimidation, and a pattern of conduct they say deserves nothing less than a decade behind bars. Back in July, Diddy was convicted on prostitution-related charges that stunned even longtime followers of his career. According to the case, he arranged for male sex workers to travel to hotels or his private residences. Once there, they were directed to sleep with his girlfriends, while Combs himself sat back, watched, and even filmed the encounters. It wasn't just the legality that shocked the courtroom, it was the bizarre and deeply unsettling nature of the setup. What prosecutors painted was a picture of a powerful man orchestrating disturbing scenarios, using his wealth and influence to blur the lines between control, humiliation, and abuse. The most haunting part of this trial came from the voices of those who say they lived through Diddy's dark side. Two of his former girlfriends, including singer Cassie Ventura, testified about what they endured behind closed doors. Cassie told the court that she was forced to take part in sexual acts with male sex workers, while Diddy watched and recorded. And when she didn't meet his demands, she described being beaten, controlled, and left feeling like her entire life was dictated by him. Her words were chilling. "These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his good graces." According to Cassie, Diddy wasn't just her partner. He was a puppet master pulling every string, no matter the damage it left behind. On the other side of the courtroom, Combs' defense team is painting a very different picture. They're urging the judge to hand down a sentence of no more than 14 months, and pointing out that Combs has already spent nearly 13 months behind bars awaiting trial. His lawyers argue that it wouldn't be fair to consider the evidence of abuse raised during the case, since Combs was acquitted of coercing his ex-girlfriends into sex. In their eyes, dragging that testimony back into the sentencing phase would only stack the deck against him. The defense's main theme? That Combs has already suffered, that he's changed, and that the media frenzy has turned him into a villain far bigger than the crimes he was actually convicted of. In short, they're asking the court to see him as a man who's paying too heavy a price. But prosecutors weren't buying it. In their filing, they slammed Diddy for trying to cast himself as the victim. Their words were blunt. He is not the victim. Instead, they told the court to focus on the people who truly suffered. The women who say they were manipulated, abused, and left scarred by his actions. For prosecutors, this case isn't about redemption arcs or celebrity comebacks. It's about accountability, plain and simple. And that's where the courtroom battle really sharpens. The defense is pushing a story of change and second chances, while prosecutors are demanding the judge look squarely at the damage left in Diddy's wake. It's a clash of narratives, sympathy versus justice. And now, it all comes down to Friday. That's when Sean Diddy Combs will finally hear his sentence. Will the judge side with prosecutors and lock him away for more than a decade? Or will his defense team's plea for leniency actually stick? What's at stake here is massive. Not just Diddy's freedom, but justice for the women who stood up in court, and a turning point for one of the most recognizable names in hip-hop and pop culture. From being a music mogul who shaped an era, to possibly spending the next decade behind bars, this moment could mark the biggest fall of his career. We'll be watching closely, and if you want to stay updated on this case and more stories from the world of music and celebrity, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Papaya Room, and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next.